Golair, and welcome to the Loaf of Bread GAA podcast, slicing into the GAA of the past, present and future. Join me, Jason Keelan, as we cut into the largest loaf of bread known to mankind. On Slice 4 we head out of Uachtar and back across country to meet a Kildare man who is no stranger to success. From Confi to Dublin Ladies Senior to Kildare Under-20 All-Ireland managerial success to taking the Wicklow job, we chat to the legend himself, Mr. Davy Burke. We chat speeches of all kinds, robbing lads at golf, unleashing Jimmy Hyland into the GAA world, and of course winning the ultimate prize, Confi Man of the Town 2009. But first, let's take a quick trip, as always, through time. This week, we go through Davy's hometown of Leixlip, County Kildare. Nestled in northeast County Kildare is the growing town of Leixlip. The town is historically mentioned as being one of the major border military locations for the English during the years of the Pale from the 14th century or so. This was the area of modern-day Meath, Louth, Dublin and Kildare, which were settled in by the English, one of several Pales around Europe during the time. The town is located along the areas of the River Liffey and the Rye waters, hence the name Oscuelga being Leimon Vradon, the salmon leap, given to the town in the late 19th century. In 1756, Kildare man Arthur Guinness used a sum of money left to him by his godfather, the Archbishop of Cashel, to build the first Guinness brewery in Leixlip before leaving it to his brother Richard and moving to the famous St James's Gate in Dublin. The Guinness family were also friends with Captain William Brady, founder of the Leixlip House Hotel, after whom the famous Captain's Hill in the town is named. The town is full of life, as well as traffic. Leixlip Castle is a 12th century castle, which remains one of Ireland's oldest occupied houses, and was the main base for King John to organise his hunting expeditions at the time. More modern day visitors to the town would be familiar with the ever-growing influence of the tech giant Intel. In 1887, Leixlip GAA was founded to cover the town as a single club in the area. With the GAA having been formed not 3 years previous, this was a big step in the town's growth. Around 1912, the club reformed itself under the stewardship of two local teachers, Radley and Mullany. They successfully won the Kildare Intermediate Championship in 1929. One member of the team at the time was a man called Matt Goff. Matt played for 10 seasons in total, winning an incredible 6 in a row in Leinster and 2 All-Irelands. But perhaps his proudest moment was being part of the Kildare team that won the 1928 All-Ireland final, the 41st in the GAA history. This was the first time ever that the famous Sam Maguire was used, as Kildare overcame Cavan by 2-6 to 2-5. Cavan claimed the late goal by Paddy McLaughlin was thrown into the net, but this was not seen by the referee Tom Burke. Burke hailed, ironically, from Louth, a team who have suffered with their own thrown ball into the net in recent times. Matt Goff would go on to play 65 times for Kildare. That was after he had fought during the Irish War of Independence years before. Over the years a clubhouse was formed and Leixlip GAA continued to prosper. However, the lingering rivalry between the Confi parish and the Leixlip end, the Hillers and the Far Enders, as they were often referred to each other, grew ever more great, and in 1988 talk of setting up a second club in the town gained momentum, and in early 1989 the northern parish of Confi had its own club. The first game would be a 2-3 to 2-2 defeat to Kappa near the border of Meath and Kildare, a club which itself was formed from the results of the Easter Rising in 1916. In 1933 the hurling section of the club was established, and by 1997 they had their first senior title, winning Division 2 against Clane. A decade later the club would finally win the senior county title under manager Liam Dowd and some background help from a fairly well-known man called Davy Fitzgerald. On the ladies' side, their junior footballers grew in numbers, winning the 1999 Junior Championship. In 2016 the Senior Division 1 ladies were crowned champions, their last title to date. As Confi GAA expanded with facilities, local man Jimmy Crichton took the reins as the first chairman, having been involved in the foundation of the club himself. It didn't take them long in sporting terms to make their mark on the county scene. In 1995 the Under-21 team defeated Maynooth in the B Championship, their first silverware at older level. By 2001 the senior players were in the top division, and bar one relegation after a playoff loss to Naas in 2009, they've been Senior Division 1 ever since. The club has produced many greats to play at county level. Kieran Paul and Michael Dively in hurling, David Slattery, Hugh Lynch and James Gately at football, but to name a few. Today Creighton Park is the home of Confi, in honour of Jim, their first chairman. In 2016 the club put local man, Davy Burke, in charge of the team. A Confi man, a Hiller. Davy was no stranger to anybody. He played himself with club and county underage until injuries brought about an end to his playing days. At age only 18, Davy took over the Confi ladies and incredibly won 2 senior titles in a row with them. His next passage to the Kildare minor ladies team led to great success. Davy would then coach with the Dublin senior ladies team alongside Greg McGonigal. Although they lost 2 finals against Cork, it was no shame. Cork at the time were an almost unstoppable force. In 2016, when he came to Confi, Burke made a fast impression on his home parish. They were champions of Division 1 and semi-finalists in Kildare at senior level. A double first for the club, still less than 3 decades old. Davy himself, still not even 30 and now in charge of people like his best man, his brother-in-law and many childhood friends. In 2018, the call came for Davy to take over the Kildare under-20 team in the new grade, which had been changed from under-21. Kildare had one sole victory in All-Ireland under-21s in 1965 with a 7-point win over Cork. The 2018 championship got off to a good start with wins over Laois and Wicklow, either side of a 1-point defeat to Meath. They demolished Carlow and Offaly before incredibly taking a fancy Dublin side by 8 points in the Leinster final. By now the GAA world was aware of names like Padraig Nash, Brian McLaughlin and in particular Jimmy Hyland, who was ripping up the pitch with scores. But surely that was their Everest. But not for Davy. An All-Ireland semi-final in Limerick pitted them against the Kingdom. Incredibly, Hyland's score of 1-8 out of 114 was enough to survive the Lake Kerry onslaught to win by the slimmest of margins. Croke Park awaited and a date with Mayo. With the dominant Aaron Masterson in the middle of the field and both teams scoring at will in the opening half, it made for a great game. Incredibly, Kildare would hang on by 2, with Hyland putting in another man of the match display with an incredible 10 points. The first ever All-Ireland under-20 champions. A shock in the GAA world in many regards, but the Lilywhites didn't care. It was a culmination of hard work and great leadership. Davy Burke had achieved the unthinkable at just 30 years of age. As his career has now landed him in the Garden County of Wicklow, Davy continues to work his magic in new ways. They always call to split Dublin in 2. Maybe when Davy is done, they will call to split Wicklow in 2. Who knows, with no better man to give it a go. So let's meet the man himself, Davy Burke. One last piece of information you should know. Davy was best man at a wedding of 2 great Confi people, Frankie Barry and his wife, the always glamorous teacher, river dancer, and one of the coolest people I know, Siobhan McSharry. Frankie got me in touch with Davy, but once Frankie heard that he was coming on for the chats, he just couldn't resist throwing in a few questions of his own as he went along. Bon Sultas. Listen, thanks very much for coming on. I'll throw a few questions to you, but there's nothing too serious now. Frankie mightn't be your best mate in a little while. I didn't ask him for it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm grand," but he was like, "Oh no, ask him this," and I was like, "No, look, I'm not going to go hard on him now." I said he's very sound, but there is 1 or 2 things that he's insisted that I mentioned, so you can ring him after. So I suppose the first thing I kind of asked everyone, I had David O'Shaughnessy on the other night from the Westmeath 04 team, and the first thing I asked him, which I ask everyone, is who were your influences growing up?
My father would have been my first and biggest influence. He would have been big GA man, a big GA coach. He would have done a lot of underage coaching, a lot of underage Kildare coaching, county coaching, and also was the manager or coach of St. David's Artane, which would have been, one of the top schools in the Hogan Cup at the time. We would have had pupils like Stephen Cluxton and even Stephen McPhail was playing his trade in England there. Well, obviously he's retired now. Yeah. We had some top lads, a lot of ex-Dublin players. I think maybe Cluxton's the only one still hanging on, but a lot of lads would have been through his hands in St. David's. Would have been a proud football GA school. So so my dad would have been my biggest influence growing up, and obviously I would have picked up bits of different people as I've went since, but in general, I'd have to say it would have been him. All right,
I was reading all right. He was a teacher, is that right? Was he a
Yeah,
teacher?
yes, a teacher, but now he passed away 15, 16 years ago. But yeah, he was teacher out in Artane now. He was a teacher for a short while, and not for a short while. He was a teacher for a while, but then he went into business, and he was kind of publican. You name it, he was it. So he done plenty of things.
Yeah, sounds familiar. I have a dad quite similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the only thing as a kid, it's interesting. You learn plenty because you do plenty of different apprenticeships.
Yeah, the irony, I suppose, I don't really drink at all yet. My dad's second job was in the pub, so I was raised on the pool table essentially. So
you're probably hustling, lads, are you?
I would have, yeah. Before they closed, yeah, I was well able to, yeah. But they get to know you after a while, which is a bit annoying. So
yeah, it's like that white man can't jump, isn't it?
It's somewhere around that, yeah, I suppose. I'm not sure if am I Woody Harrelson, or I'm not sure who I am, to be honest. But I suppose 2018 you unleashed a Ballyteague man, I suppose, on the GA, who scored 355 in a campaign. Is Jimmy Hyland the best you've ever coached?
Jimmy Hyland would have the potential to be the best I've ever coached. He was certainly that year untouchable, and certainly he was incredible. His attitude, first and foremost, his relentless work ethic was unbelievable. He really opened my eyes to extras, the work that man done before and after training. I hadn't really seen it to that level before, personally. So he definitely has the potential to be the best I've ever coached. Is he there yet? No. But I watching Kildare this year, or in 2020, he definitely seems to be the mainstay in the full forward line now. So that would tell me he's getting there. A couple of hard years. A lot of people don't realise his under 20 isn't under 21. You're not fully developed. You're not a full man, or whatever you want to call it, physically yet, So it's after taking Jimmy and a few others a couple of years to get there. So looks like Jimmy's there now, and the sky really is the limit for him. And his biggest attribute, obviously, he's left and right, low centre of gravity, great balance, strong. But his attitude, he's a farmer's son, and that's like he kicked 110 in the Leinster final against Dublin, and we were doing on a Saturday evening or Friday evening. We were doing a recovery session that next morning, and Jimmy was up 3 hours earlier, milking cows or doing bales of hay or something foreign to me. I wouldn't have a clue about. So that's what you're talking about. There was no let up, and Terry Senior was there, and it was out you go, and we'll get you to training then after. So it's his attitude that'll get him there. So I would hope, yes.
Deadly, yeah. When you took over at Wicklow, you were in some ways kind of following in the steps of Mick O'Dwyer. Is it the kind of thing where you go, Jesus Christ, my name is in the same articles as him, or is it purely a job to do?
Not me, yeah. No, you can't really. I think people would be very flattered now if I was even in the same sentences, really, just because I'm holding a position that Nico would have held. I don't see myself anywhere near that category or that level. But obviously, it would both. Well, I'm the current, and he's an ex-Wicklow senior football manager. I think that's where the similarities probably, begin and end, to be honest with you.
Okay, fair enough. This one then, as a man who's known to give fairly impassioned speeches, there's an argument to say that your finest hour was on a November day in 2019, Lochran Castle. Siobhan and Frankie Barry, would that speech kept more than 200 people on the dance floor till about 5 a.m? Is that your finest speech ever, or?
Oh, geez, I don't know now. I had a rough. I was in rough nick that day. With a week. We won with the club the week previous, and I think we had a few days in the beer after that. So we were in good old shape that night. But it was great. I was Lochran was the savage venue, and Frankie Siobhan are party animals. Let's be honest about it. So particularly Siobhan when she gets going. So if my few words contributed towards the dance floor, I'll be happy to take that. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Frankie asked me about this one. He said you've had many fine moments, but he said you won a juniors captain's prize in Westmastown Golf Club despite what he says, and I quote, been terrible at golf. And he wants to know, were you playing off the junior tees in that one?
Lovely. I'm feeling me stitched up here.
Don't worry, you're not. No.
Yeah, I won the junior captain's prize. I don't even know what year. It's a long, long time ago now. I won a junior captain's prize,
Yeah,
and yeah, I was playing off a ridiculous. I won't even tell you the handicap I was playing off. I think it could be a ladies' handicap. I might have been playing off,
right.
but I would pull him up on one thing. I don't think I'm terrible at golf. It's just very, very inconsistent. I think I could.
That's
I
me.
hit a good drive, but then my iron play will be terrible, or vice versa, whatever you want. But yeah, no. So I did win the juvenile prize. It was one fella to give a honourable mention to, Eugene Reinhardt. I absolutely robbed him. He's a comfy man as well, a club mate of ours, and top golfer now, proper golfer. He could have been playing off either high single digits, 8, 9, 10, around that anyway. And I think he posted 40 odd points, and I absolutely robbed him, to be honest with you, just with my ridiculous handicap on the day, you know. So, and I actually did do a bit of practice leading into that. So I think I was playing with a fella the weekend previous, and he'd be a renowned gambler, and he said, "Is there anyone taking a book on this next weekend?" Because I was playing quite well because I was putting time into it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got the job done that day. Whether it's not something I talk about too often now.
Yeah. No, he insisted that I had to ask that one. So your record, I suppose, going from Maynooth, Sigerson, Wicklow, Kildare, Dublin Ladies, Sarsfields, Comfy, where would you say is your happiest memories from?
Oh, geez,
I know you've had success everywhere. Like, I know you're with Greg McGonigal, wasn't it, at Dublin as well? So yeah. Where would you say your happiest?
I have to say I enjoyed every one of them. I haven't. My big thing with any team, I have to say, is I never want to burn any bridges. I never want to close any doors. So my biggest thing I could say about any of them teams is, I'd like to believe the Dublin Senior Ladies would take me back in the morning if a position was available. I'd like to believe the Comfy footballers would have me back. I'd like to believe the Clare and 20s would have me back. Sarsies, etc., etc. You know, so that's in the way I operate is very much right. It's a serious operation. We take our football very, very seriously, but that's in one box. But there is an enjoyment element too, and provided box A is ticked, well, then we've plenty of time to have the crack and plenty of time to get to know each other and plenty of time to build relationships, etc., etc. You know.
Yeah.
But so probably to single out one would be the Comfy Senior Footballers, purely because it's my home club. It was a huge honour for me to manage my home club. I don't know what age I was. I was late 20s probably managing them. And I would have had all my best friends were on the team. My brother-in-law, my first cousin, literally everyone of my best friends were on that team. So as you can imagine, some hugely enjoyable times. We went 6 months unbeaten, which Comfy would be unheard of, really. You know, we went from the 1st of April to the 2nd of October, unbeaten, won Division 1, first time ever. Got to a senior semi-final, beaten by Sarsfields by a couple of points. I was sickener that day, but look, there's a small bit of experience on the day, probably, told. And be honest, we had went hard and so hard for so long that the probably more seasoned teams tend to time their run a small bit better, So that's probably on that. But the point I'm getting at here is, as you can imagine, so many good days winning week on week and building up that. But obviously there's difficult days of having to drop your best friend or drop your cousin or drop your brother-in-law or have them difficult conversations, which, to be honest with you, I think really stood to me as a manager, because having to pull in a fella that you're going to his wedding next week, or you're going here with him next week, or you're going to stag, and it's difficult. And but ultimately, I knew I was on one route forward in my management career, and if I shirked these decisions, well, ultimately I wasn't going to work out, to be honest with you. So so that was a huge part of it. But to answer your question in a very long-winded way, the buzz we created so in the league was brilliant. It was week on week, and the Kildare fixtures are class. In fairness to Kildare, when your club fixtures are out, they don't change. It's as good as golden, So just the buzz we created, and the energy I got in the dressing room, 8 to 10 minutes before we went out, just so we were out in our pre-warm or whatever we were doing, back in, and just jerseys on type thing. And just before we went out, Jesus Christ, the buzz, the energy, I've never replicated it. And it's something I can't put my finger on. I just remember looking around at a lot of my best friends, a lot of lads just going, holy shit, this is something special. And it was something special. And ultimately, I believe we maxed out that year, we squeezed every last ounce out of the whole lot of us, that kind of way. So, to answer your question, I would just say that was the most special, probably, feeling that I got out of the whole lot,
Yeah, it's probably the family thing, like, because even tomorrow night I have some of the girls in the Westmeath Camogie team on, and I was reading a couple of articles and stuff, and one of the girls was saying, her best moment is essentially where she played with her two sisters on a team. So it's the family thing.
100%, and that you can't replicate it. I seen a poll online the other day. I don't know who put it up, but Twitter again. I love a bit of Twitter, and so somebody had it up anyway, and it was, would you rather win an All Ireland with your club or with your county? And I couldn't get over it. I think it was 77% might have went with the club. So that'll tell you where the family, the local connection comes in, where it really is the cornerstone of every community.
Yeah, I asked the four Derard lads who won the All-Ireland Intermediate, I asked them the other night. Yeah. I asked them the exact same question. I was like, if the four you got on the Galway panel and had a chance to win the All-Ireland, would you trade it in for the club medal? And it was just a straight out, not on your life. And part of the reason was they said we couldn't trade it in because the bonfire that night after the All-Ireland was so good that they couldn't trade in that memory. Yeah. So it wasn't as much the medal as it was the bonfire. So
look, whatever floats your boat,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who's the toughest teams you've ever come up against with the club or counties?
Anyone
stand out?
Who is the toughest team I've ever came up against? They probably break it down. In club wise, at the top end of it, I suppose, having managed Confi and managed Sassy's in Kildare, probably the most organised physical team I've seen in that regard would have been Éire Óg of Carlow. It would have been, don't get me wrong, no, we were against Sassy's would be a huge regret. Not a regret, but it really annoyed me now that we weren't at full strength that day. We lost a couple of our main players to Australia, etc., etc. Yeah. No excuses, but they were a savagely well organised side. Between Sean Gannon, Jordan Morrissey, just different gravy, Blake in full forward. They were a seriously strong, well organised, practically the Carlow team we were playing,
Yeah.
So really, really well organised team. So they would have been probably the toughest opposition club-wise of what I came up against. Then obviously at senior and the county level, I think it's safe to say Meath would be the best side I've come up against today at senior and the county level. I don't think we could say any. I don't think we could shirk that one, But again, very similar to Éire Óg kind of club level, physicality, and organisation just through the roof. Nothing, no outstanding forward, no one who, nothing that you haven't seen before, but just a collective intensity, a collective physicality, and lads generally knowing their job. And that was just impressive from my point of view. So I'd probably throw them two out there.
Yeah, no one likes Meath anyway. So yeah.
yeah. Well, definitely not as a Kildare man anyway.
And as a Westmeath man, I don't either. So
yeah.
I suppose you can't blame Covert or the ref, can you, for shipping 7-14 against Meath, can you?
No, 100%. No. It was a terrible day at the office. It was embarrassing, let's be honest about it. The worst day I've ever been involved in football. And I hope and plan that it's a one-off. In that I've kind of done a lot of talking about it. Spoke to a lot of players, spoke to background, spoke to people who would have been following us closely, and we'd like to believe, again, similar enough to the Confi thing I spoke about when Sassy's beat us in the semi-final. For me, Meath looked like a team beginning their journey, and we looked like a team at the end of our journey. And to be honest with you, that was it. We made no secret of it. Division 4 was where we were at. Get promoted to Division 4 was the plan. Let's go as hard, as early as we could. So when the lads were knocked out of club championships in August, we would have had them out, in their 1s and 2s and 3s and 5s, doing their individual plans before we could get back in mid-September. So I think our lads came back in probably slightly ahead of other teams in reasonable order, because we only had a month to prepare for Antrim, beat Wexford 2 weeks in the bounce in Wexford Park, which was good going, I felt. So ultimately, no matter what you say and no matter what we think, our job was done. We had been promoted for the first time in a long time. We then went again to Wexford Park to win the Leinster Senior Championship game. First time Wicklow won one in a number of years.
Yeah, that's right.
And no matter what you kind of say, it kind of seeps in that, and obviously it's only afterwards you can see this.
Yeah. What would you say? This might be a tricky enough one to think about. What's your finest night of celebration that you can remember? Doesn't have to involve Frankie now or anybody.
He generally turns up anyway.
Yeah,
somewhere
he does,
along the line.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
could be day 2 or somewhere, but he'll rock up.
It could be a week later.
Yeah. Probably the most memorable was after the Under-20 All-Ireland final, because we well, what did we do? We kind of planned a banquet, and we planned a banquet that evening for that evening in the Osprey Hotel there, suit and tie job, ticket event. And I think this would have been, I don't know if it was the first, but it definitely would have been a different thing. You know, I'm not sure if many of my players or even a lot of the admin lads would have came across this before, but I was hell bent that this was happening. From my experience with Dublin and my experience elsewhere, this was the norm, you know?
Yeah.
So, they were the standards we were setting, and it was as simple as that. And, you know, everyone, and, you know, it was, I don't know, it was 30 quid a ticket, 3-course meal. It was, you know,
good value.
DJ band, whatever had to happen. Look, and when you win, it's great. But when you lose, obviously, it's a wedding or a wake. It's as simple as that, you know, that kind of way. Like, so look, ultimately, I think probably in my initial chats, you know, some people might have thought I was getting ahead of myself and, oh, geez, we're losing the run of ourselves and they're not focusing on the football and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Whereas, you know, in the initial days after the semi-final, there's a window. It was a 3-week run-in, so there's 2 or 3 days there where I felt, right, these are my days. Let's box off this, get it done with 2.5 weeks of football. Then, you know, that kind of way. So, long story short, I felt personally a big, you know, I was delighted with that because it came off with a waiting list longer than your arm. People were worried would we have anyone, but it was actually people queuing up to get in. And when we opened the doors up to probably 10 o'clock, there was a flood of particularly early 20-year-old girls flooding into the room, you know, as you can imagine. So look, I was delighted with that, and then obviously it spilled into the Monday, and then Tuesday morning I was on a flight to Bali for my honeymoon. So them 3 days were the best session I was probably ever on, to be honest with you.
Not a bad spot, yeah. Bali is nice, all right, yeah.
So you can imagine I was in good nick for that 14-hour flight now.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I've done that flight myself as well. It's not the most fun flight, even without having any drink. I can only imagine what it's like with it. So, if I know, because you kind of left the playing days early with the cruise sheet and all that, would you trade it all in the managerial to have another go at the playing days?
Yeah. In the morning. Let me get this right now. Yes, I would. If I was any good. Right. So look, I was, you know, I would have played a small bit of county under-8, very, very small. I think I was bigger than most of the other lads. Myself and a good friend of mine, Mossy McCann, there would have played on the same teams coming through, and he was skillful and I was bigger, so it kind of worked well together. But after that, I to be honest with you, I was never going to shake any trees. I was never going to make any headlines as a player. So if I was any good at football, geez, I'd give it all back to play, because if I could be centre back in the morning, pulling the strings and making tackles and breaking forward and reading the game, geez, I'd give nothing else other than to do that. But unfortunately, I was never going to get to that position. So I think I'm better off. I had more influence on what goes on the sideline, you know.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's kind of like myself. At least I use the word county, whereas I just, you know, I use the word sitting on the bench most of the time. So
now that was very young. Now, just to clarify, that was very young. That was, you're talking 12s and 14s. I was gone after that, you know.
Yeah, same as I still have to use the word sitting on the bench though. So outside of the GA, apart from the golf and stuff as well, have you any other passions outside the GA that you're fond of?
Yeah. Well, plenty of sport-related passions. I'm a big fan of the NFL. I actually in rugby as well, but I really would like to analyse a small bit of it. I tend to try my best to. There's a huge crossover, I believe, from different sports, different disciplines, you know, and I really try to, you know, teach myself in order to improve myself as a coach, improve the product I can deliver, you know. So I'd be big by even watching the analysis on the likes of Monday Night Football there with Carragher and Neville and even Keith Richards and different lads. I really try to pick apart what their angles are and how they see the game and, you know, different things like that. So I would be a big fan of different things. Other than that, sure, look, it's hard to remember what the hobbies are. You know, you like socialise as much as the next fella. When the opportunity allows, I'd say there could be a big explosion of socialising in whenever this big date of release is. Yeah. But yeah, look, my life has changed now. I have a 6 or 18-week-old little lad now at home here, so the priorities have changed. So walks in the park in the weekend now, Jason, and you know, hold hands. That's the life now, you know.
Yeah, sure, look, same for Frankie and Siobhan as well. So yeah, parody in
Exactly.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
parody in
at least there's a purpose in it. Exactly. Yeah.
it. Yeah. I have two questions left before, and I'll do it's quick fire round just to finish off to
Yeah.
do kind of with everybody.
No bother.
Now, I will warn you, these two questions in inverted commas both came from you know who. So the first one is Frankie has asked me to ask how you won the Confi Man of the Town in 2009.
I'm not going to lie. To get back to my point previously about being able to go back to my teams, any previous team, I'd like to believe I'd love to go back to them. Confi Senior Ladies, I definitely fixed that award. I 100% fixed that award. I think we just won our first ever senior championship that year. This is Christmas time, so it's handed out Christmas 27th is a big function in the club every year, and they were these made up half Mickey Mouse awards, and more slagged than anything else. And I think I have to say, Confi Senior Ladies swung that one in my favour. There's very little else to it now, I have to say.
Any silverware is good silverware, though. So
exactly, yeah. I wouldn't turn it down, you know.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's dead right. The last one then. Now I don't know this story very well because it's from an under-20 friendly between Kildare and Kerry, and apparently it involves Jack O'Connor standing in the middle of the half-back line in the middle of the pitch during the match, and you took some offence or something to this, Frankie said, and went and stood beside him in the second half. Is that right?
Jesus, yeah, you have a
He has a shocking memory, yeah.
Have to be careful what I tell him going forward, anyway.
Definitely, yeah.
So this game he's referring to was in 2018. It was St. Paddy's Day, 17th of March in the morning. I think we played early doors, 11 or 12 o'clock in LIT, literally under the shadow of Thomond Park. If anyone hasn't been here, it's class down there. You're literally, Thomond's overlooking you. And long story short, we went down, met halfway, and again, Paddy's Day, Ireland were playing England in rugby that afternoon, so we planned to play early, so we'd be home for it or whatever. We actually had planned, I was only in the door, so we'd planned a day out with the lads on the bus on the way home, stop for the match, bit of dinner, maybe a couple of beers, and tip on up the road, you know. So we had done that, but long story short, Kerry had agreed to play us at LIT, and they brought the ref, which was 100%, you know. So we played the game, and I think, let's be honest about it, Kerry had a far stronger team out than we did now, a far stronger team out than we did, and ultimately we were on the receiving end of a big beating, shall we say. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but at one stage anyway, their manager was in the middle of the field, and this was in the first half, we'll say. It went on for a couple of minutes. It was kind of just, you know, it wasn't, don't get me wrong, I didn't crouch as much as the next fella onto the field now, but, you know, there's aren't encroaching and there's half playing, you know. So that was it. Look, we got to half time. I had a word with the ref just to see, is there, you know, what's the crack like, you know. And ref said, sure, he'd do no harm or whatever. So I said, it's great, no bother. So presuming that second half would, you know, this would just go back to normal or whatever. 2 or 3 minutes in, and it started happening again. So I kind of said, well, F this now. I said, you know, I'll go, because look, to be honest with you, it was more of a statement. I was just in the door. This team needed a leader, I believe. They needed somebody who was going to fight for them, someone who was going to, we were down there, we were on the receiving end of a 4-25 to 1-2, maybe beaten, or something along those lines, you know. Yep. So even this was a psychology, you know, I just felt, look, we can either completely roll over here or, you know, we can do something. So literally I just went down to the field for a minute or two, and I think the ref then, you know, ultimately had the decision that the two of us had to go. So that was fine. So once the two of us left, I had no problem. You know, again, I didn't want to be out there at all. Yeah. So so ultimately, I just called it, and in fairness to the ref, he just put the two of us to our separate lines. Away the game went. Look, to be honest with you, it was me trying to tell the boys, look, lads, I don't really care how this game is going. I'm here. I'm committed to this. I'll battle. I'll fight for you. And you know, if you follow me, I'll bring you as far as I can. Not knowing ultimately, obviously, where we'd end up, but I just felt that they needed someone to follow, someone to buy into, and someone to, you know, get behind. And look, if that done a tiny bit towards it, I don't even know if it did. But you know yourself, it's just something that was in my head at the time. I said, look, you know, at the end of the day, I had a panel of 17, 18, and 19-year-olds, and you know, I needed to show them that I was there for them, and I wouldn't tolerate it. You know?
Yeah, That right, yeah, no, sounds good. No, I just had to get the backstory because I wasn't sure exactly. It kind of didn't make sense to me when I heard it. I was like, really? Like, there's basically 16 lads on the pitch essentially, so either side.
There was 17. There was 32 then for a few minutes, 33 including the ref. But
Yeah.
but as I said, there was actually there was nothing to it in the end.
Yeah.
Like it yeah.
Yeah, it's just a good story. Yeah. Yeah. The last bit then I do is just since it's called the Loaf of Bread podcast and keeping with the bread team. So the quick fire round is called cutting the crust off because you're a little shit who won't eat them for your mother. So
it's a fair name.
Oh yeah, I have to go all out. You know yourself. So it's just quick fire questions. They're all GA related. So your favorite ground that you've ever played in or managed in?
It's have to be Croke Park.
Deadly. Your least favorite ground?
Dr. Cullen Park.
Good shout. Are you more of a hand pass or drive it long man?
Lave it in. Isn't that what they say? Lave it in.
So the short kick out or the long kick out?
I'm not the biggest fan of the short. I'll let it out and get the fielding back into the game, you know?
Yeah, good stuff, yeah. As a supporter, would you be the tea and hang sandwiches from the boot of the car or straight to the pub before the match?
Depending on the match. If I'm purely in a supporting capacity, I might chance a pint beforehand.
Yep.
If I'm there to do any sort of analysis or opposition work or watch a team properly, it'll be the sandwich, I'm afraid.
Fair enough. Hats, flags, scarves, or headbands? You have a choice of one.
I could do with something to cover up this lid. Definitely a hat, I'd say.
Marty Morrissey or Des Cahill?
Des, I think he's actually some form of a relation of mine. He could be a cousin of my father's or something like that. So I'd have to go with Des, the Clare connection there.
Lovely, I'll get him on. I'll ask him that. Who's your favourite pundit on telly, male or female, from any sport, any show?
I think, I'll give you two words. GA. I think Tomas O'Shea is probably out in his own at the minute as regards punditry, but I will give an honorary mention to Denise Masterson, who seems to be popular on the RTE panel now.
Yeah.
I would have worked with Denise in the Dublin Senior Ladies, and the single best brain I've ever come across in any team, any discipline, as regards understanding of the game and her ability to articulate it and play the game. So I think Denise is a serious understanding of football, so she's well worth her position on any punditry team.
Brilliant, yeah. You have a choice of two here. Would you take Diarmuid Connolly in his prime or Pat Spillane in his prime?
To be honest, I'd take Dermot. The only reason I would is I hadn't seen a huge amount of Pat, so I'm not going. Yeah. I'm going to give the old bias towards the current guy. You know.
Fair enough. What's the funniest thing that you've ever shouted from a sideline or has been shouted at you?
Oh Jesus, there's been plenty of things shouted at me. Jesus, yeah, I managed a Dublin Senior Ladies team against Kildare, and I managed a senior club team against my own senior club team, my home team. So I've been plenty of things shouted at me, that's for sure. Jesus, I don't know. I don't know. I had a bit of a run in last year, 2019, with a referee. I won't go into detail, but there was interesting things shouted then.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's been loads, Jason. There's been loads.
Yeah, no, I just asked because one of the Uachtar Ard lads said, Eddie O'Sullivan, actually the captain of the team, he said at one stage he was so hungover at a match that his manager just asked him just to leave the pitch. It was a very Father Ted moment, just get out kind of,
Yeah.
If there was a GA transfer market in the morning, who's the one player you'd bring into your team?
Who's the one player I'd bring into my team? It's very, very good. Probably Kieran Kilkenny, because he seems to have an array. He seems to have all the boxes ticked. He can play inside forward, play half forward. He can create. He can finish. He's strong. He's both-footed. Jesus, he's a serious operator, and he's impressed me even more. Obviously, when he was playing out the field, and would have looked for a long time that he was getting on a lot of loose, cheap possession, and a lot of people would have criticised him for the 70 odd possessions there, and then Lee Keegan would mark him and he'd be down to 7, that kind of way. Like, so a lot of people, but since he's gone inside for me now and he's kicking 3 or 4 points and play a game, to be honest with you, he ticks every box.
Very good. Sweeper or no sweeper?
Against No sweeper with probably a sweeper.
Nice. I should have asked it nearly the other way because the Uachtar Ard lads were the cornerback here on Hanley was on, and there was a debate over whether he needed 6 or 7 sweepers to cover him when he went marauding on the pitch. So, the last one then, the best GA player ever in your lifetime.
Best GA player ever in my lifetime. You have me on the spot here. I hope I don't leave somebody out.
Doesn't have to be someone you manage, just anybody.
No. Yeah, I intentionally won't say somebody I managed.
It's not Frankie Barry either.
No, that's for sure. Definitely not Frankie Barry. No. Who might it be? I suppose you're probably looking at it. A Dublin or a Kerry footballer, really, are you? They were the two probably dominant teams in or even at their own, I suppose. It's who's the best? I'd say I'll put it like this. I think Brian Fenton will be the best. Yeah. I think where he's not far off it now, and obviously is a Rolls Royce, and again, if you had asked me for 2 players, he probably would have been a second player to transfer in. But I think he probably will ultimately. Oh, sorry, I'm going to correct myself.
Okay.
Sorry, just think I thought James McCarthy for me. James McCarthy for me is the best player in the country. And for me, would probably go down as the most decorated footballer and possibly the best footballer ever, in my opinion. His work rate, his energy, his physicality. He doesn't if he kicks a score, maybe the odd day, he pops up with the big scores in All-Ireland finals. You watch it, he'd pop up on the big day. Not renowned for the score, but the dog work. He for me, himself and Cluxton are 2 most important members of that Dublin team for me. Everyone else is obviously top players, but for me, McCarthy is the heartbeat and the engine room of that team. And if you took him out of that team, who's probably the best team of all time, I think it's a different team you're looking at. So that's the biggest compliment you could probably give anybody. So I think James McCarthy, for me, is the best footballer I've seen.
Yeah, gentleman as well, and of course comes from good stock with his father as well, off a strong team. Absolutely. So yeah. Dave, I'm going to finish with a line from Frankie, and I kept this one deliberately till the end, and you can say what you want to this one. Davy Burke is by far the best manager I've ever played under. His attention to detail is like nothing I have ever seen. After all the abuse, I thought I have to finish with something like that. So,
look, as I said, I'd like to believe I can go back anywhere, and I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I'm my own biggest critic, Jason. So if something's wrong, I'll know it long before you get to tell me, or long before anyone else gets to tell me, or I'd like to believe I would anyway. So, but I'm learning every day, and let's hope we're enjoying this. So let's hope she keeps going for a while anyway.
Deadly, yes. Davy Burke, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Loaf of Bread podcast, and thanks so much for coming on and giving up your time, and best of luck when you ring Frankie next time, because sure to be a fun phone call.
I think the luck will be on his side, not mine.
Oh yeah, definitely, yes.
I just to throw in I best of luck with this, best of luck with the podcast, and I think you might have a little bit of a niche, because obviously football, and we're a football mad country, let's be honest about it, we're football mental and GA mental, but I like your little your take on it and your twang on it, so fair play to you, and best of luck with it.
Yeah, just trying to keep it a bit more positive, I suppose, because every GA podcast in some way has an agenda. Like, they're looking for a headline, they're looking for this. As the boys from Uachtar Ard said to me, I said, I'm not looking for a back page headline, and they said, you should be looking for a front page headline, So